What's going on, YouTube? I'm gonna make another shortish video here for you. And I want to talk to you about these. These are dangerous, to say the least. First off, not so much the sanding pads that are on these. These, you can just, do whatever you're going to do. There's no real big worry about those. Just try not to keep your, try to keep your fingers out of them. And you're pretty well safe. Always wear gloves when you're running a grinder. You get some, I got scars all over my hands from these things. They're pretty brutal sometimes. But first of all, this is what I wanted to give you guys a few pointers about. Cutoff wheels, 045 cutoff wheels. This right here. Most of the time, if you're working in a shop of some sort, you might get fired for that right there. That is a bad deal. Because most places, with any type of hard discs or hard stones or whatever, they require you to use those. Those are the guards that come with the grinder. So these are sometimes good, sometimes bad, depending on which way you look at it. Most of the time I hate them personally. I don't like them either as much as any other guys are, but you got to have them on there most of the time. And if OSHA catches you without one on there, then the employer you work for, you'll probably be fired. They'll have to pay a big fine. Yada, yada, yada. It's the world we live in today, I guess. But otherwise, I was going to show you, I modify my guards. Hopefully, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's take a look here. That's a modified one. This one here is not modified. This is a stock DeWalt guard that you get when you buy a 4.5 inch grinder, 5-inch grinder, whatever. Now, the reason why I modify them is there's times, like I say, with this, not so much the cutoff wheels. The reason why they got so much lip on them is to protect your fingers. But like if you're using a hard disc or just a standard grinding wheel, I forgot to grab one. Standard grinding wheel, this one's used obviously, but it'll for demonstration purposes. So obviously, with the guard, you can grind in any direction you want. Up, down, sideways, crossways, whatever you want. Now, when you put the guard on there, the standard guard, see if I can get this thing on here. Now it's going to make a fool of me here. So you got your regular guard, you put your grinding wheel on there. Well, it protects your fingers from hitting the grinder, but you can only grind like this. If you lay that thing down flat, you can't grind that direction, or if you're in a weird spot or, whatever, and you have to have the guard on there, you can't do it because it's, grinding wheels, a 1/2 inch underneath of this lip right here. So, like I said, I'll give you a demonstration here. Now if I get this thing back off here. When I modify them, I cut them down So now, I don't know if this is OSHA approved or not, but now the guard, this one's actually kind of bent a little bit. But now the guard is below the wheel just a little bit. It still protects your fingers from hitting that, but now you can grind like on this end. It's a little bit more versatile. You know, with a new grinding wheel or one of those real depressed center grinding wheel, you can hold that thing flat like this. You know, if you wanted to, like if you're grinding a small, your welding table or whatever, you know, you don't want to leave a bunch of divots or something in there. That's good. That's handy. These are good for cutoff wheels too. You know, put your standard cutoff wheel on there, like so. And it's just, you know, a little less bulky. Still protects your fingers. Doesn't have that big deal in there, so you can actually see what you're doing when you're cutting something. That brings me to another point. I've been watching, you know, some guys' videos on YouTube, and a lot of these guys have been running grinders, you know. They don't have a guard on them, you know, whatever. But when you have a standard grinder, you know, the grinders always run, I think it's counterclockwise. Is that which way they go? I forget. I'm going to plug this in for a second just to double check myself here. So yeah, they always spin counterclockwise. Now when you're using a cutoff wheel, I've seen guys take these cutoff wheels and stick them into places, and man, they just explode and the grinder launches out of their hands, or they kick back really hard. And I started thinking to myself, like, why is that so hard to you know, keep from doing that? And I think a thing I realized is when you're using a cutoff wheel, the best way to know when you always want these cutoff wheels when you're cutting something, if that wheel binds up, you want that grinder to come out of your hands and go away from you. Always away from you. You don't ever want it to be cutting somewhere and that thing to come back and kick back and hit you in the hand or hit you in the chest or whatever, you know. I mean, it sucks, and these things are brutal when they come apart, or if they cut you. I mean, it's gnarly. So the thing that I realized is if you're cutting something, if the sparks, like if you're cutting something and the sparks are going away from you, you're using that wheel wrong. Now the best way to do it is to flip it around. Obviously that's not going to work too well, but if the sparks are coming at you, then that wheel is grabbing, and that grinder, if that grinder catches, it's going to go away from you. So as long as the sparks are unfortunately flying at your face, that wheel is going the right direction. If it explodes or whatever it's going to do, it's going to go away from you. And that's just kind of a simple thing that I've learned after, you know, blowing these things up and having them grab. And I mean, yeah. If you ever had one explode, you know what I'm talking about, or bind up and grab a hold of something and burn your grinder up, or, you know, whatever happens with them, and what happens is pretty gnarly. So sparks flying at you, cutter's going the right direction. Sparks going away from you, that thing binds up, it's going to hit you. And there's some other ways, you know, upside down, you know, if you're cutting things like this, you know, obviously you want that wheel to be, it's still going to, if you're cutting the right way, it's still going to basically throw sparks at you. I guess if you're cutting the other way too, but it's going to throw stuff at you, or, you know, whatever. But once you learn to use the grinder long enough, you kind of figure out which way this thing grabs a hold of and which way it knows, or which way it feels like it's pulling away from you, so you know you're going to be cutting right. Hopefully that kind of makes sense, what I just said. I don't know, but anyways, have a good day, guys. Hopefully that helps some of you guys that run these cutoff wheels wrong and dangerously, and I don't know. Have a good one.